Alright guys, I'm here with a bit of information for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. So, the European Bandai Namco Entertainment website updated their Dragon Ball Sparking Zero section. And we actually got two updates concerning this website. One of which is they updated the fighter page, where they completely changed the layout of this section, which is pretty cool. But not just that, a lot of these images have been on the website for a while, of course, including, you know, some of the newer images that we got from the recent trailers. But we've had screenshots of these characters on this website, but they updated it to the point where not only do we get to see a screenshot, but we also get to see the render of the character as well. And this is for every single character in the game, with one exception, which I'll explain in just a bit. But we are seeing the screenshot of Goku Z early on the right hand side, which has been on the website forever now. But on the left side, we finally get to see the render of the character himself. And not only that, some characters that have similar poses and even like similar outfits may have slight differences. So again, this is Goku Z early. Pay attention to his pose, the symbol on his gi, and of course his hair. Because if we go over to Goku Super, he has the exact same pose, but the symbol on his gi is completely different, and his hairstyle is actually different as well. So small details like that change depending on which character you select is actually pretty cool. But of course, I mean, we have Goku ZN, where he has a completely different pose and whatnot, right? So again, pretty cool. I'm actually really happy that we get to see like the differences between these characters, right? And obviously putting all that to the side too, I mean, there's obviously different characters. We got my favorite character in all of Dragon Ball, Super Saiyan 2 Teen Gohan. Who else? We have Evil Boo right here, which I'm really happy that he's back in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. We have one of my favorite characters, Tapion. Granted, I wish he was holding onto his sword in his render, but I'm not complaining because the render still looks nice. And so much more. We have Broly Z, Legendary Super Saiyan. We have brand new characters like Anilaza, and so much more. So again, I am really happy that they finally added the renders for these characters in like Dragon Ball Spark Zero on this website anyway, because this could be useful for people who are trying to make maybe thumbnails or maybe use these renders for whatever purpose they may have in mind. So again, really cool addition to the website. I'm all down for it. Now, I did say that this was mostly all the characters because unfortunately there is one character that's missing. So right here we have Goku Teen, which most people may know as Kid Goku, but we do know that the pre-order character is Goku Mini from the upcoming anime Dragon Ball Daima. But since he hasn't been officially showcased in the game just yet, they haven't added him to the official roster. So because of that, he's not on this website. But I'm pretty sure that once we actually get to see like a trailer concerning him, then they'll add him onto the website. So we just gotta wait for a little bit longer concerning Goku Mini. But now that we've seen the fighter page, there is something else that they updated as well. And that is some of the details concerning like how characters function in the game and whatnot. Now, they did go over character types like speed, power, androids, like, and all sorts of stuff like swords, but I think this is probably the most important thing. So, you guys know that impact actions are a thing in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. They're classifying them in this webpage as QTEs because, of course, they have QTEs. And we're going to break them down because they finally explain what to do when it comes down to these impact actions. So, we have QTE, Quick Time Event. Once certain moves are performed at the same time by both players, a dynamic QTE, Quick Time Event, sequence will start in which the winner can take an advantage in the battle by dealing additional damage and sending his opponent away. Quick Time Events will make your fights even more unique and unpredictable, as they require a shift in the way the battle flows. Make sure to include it in your battle strategy by making it a turning point in the battles to throw your opponent's rhythm off. So, first up we have Speed Impact. A Speed Impact sees the two fighters clash and trade a series of blows. Perform a Speed Impact by clashing with your opponent using a Dragon Dash, R2, RT, plus X and A, obviously depending on which platform you're playing on, Xbox or PlayStation. This also occurs when a Rush-type blast collides with a Dragon Dash. This impact action is divided into two main parts. First, during the single strike, both sides must match their inputs with what is being shown on the screen. Once the winner of the single attack is decided, the action proceeds to rapid strikes. During rapid strike, the final damage inflicted is decided by the number of inputs performed by each player. Once the rapid strike stage ends, the winner of the single strike will send the loser flying, concluding the encounter. So, I'm glad that they finally explained this because speed impact, if you will, has been a thing in the Tenkaichi series, but it functions slightly differently because the single strike portion was not a thing in the older games, but it is now because obviously it's in reference to Dragon Ball Super Broly. But either way, so you want to make sure that you win the single strike because it does matter, right? Because one, it's potential extra damage that you can deal against the opponent, but of course that will determine whether or not you get to send your opponent flying or not. So, and of course, like once you get to the rapid strikes, depending on which control scheme that you're using, you want to make sure that you're either mashing the button if you're using standard or spinning the control stick if you're using classic in order to try to deal as much damage as possible by building up, lots of hits. So again, functions pretty much the same as it does in Tenkaichi 3, but with that extra strike or single strike portion. So yeah, you want to make sure that you beat your opponent with that, but at least now we know how it functions fully. And then we have Power Impact. Power Impact happens once the two characters perform a throw, R1 RB plus square X, at the same time. This impact action is centered around comparing strength by holding corresponding buttons. During the clash, a gauge will be displayed. You must adjust your inputs in order to not exceed the needle. The winner is determined by whose gauge is closest to the needle when the power impact ends. Okay, so I'm actually glad that they clarified this one in particular. There's another one that they clarify on, which I'm happy that they do as well. We'll get to it when we get to it. But with this, I've seen people try to mash the button to try to win that, which obviously that's not how that works. So if you guys play Dragon Ball Legends, think of it akin to either a beam struggle or just a clash, right? Where you have to time your input, and obviously who gets closest to the top of the gauge ends up winning at the end of the day, minus the whole time aspect of it. But with this, you want to make sure that you get it closest to the needle, but not exceeding it, right? Because if it hits the needle, it'll rebound and start going down. So you want to make sure that you get it closest to the needle. However, there is one thing that isn't really explained. This is complete, a prediction here, but I'm thinking that if you boost it and you get it closer to the needle, then you'll end up dealing more damage when you retaliate against the opponent, right? Because I'm assuming that even if you boost it and your opponent doesn't boost it for whatever reason, but your opponent ends up getting it closer to the needle without boosting, they'll still win, but when they retaliate, they'll deal less damage. But if you boost it all the way, or boost it up to a certain extent, and you get it closer to the needle and you win, then you'll deal more damage because you boosted it. So that's just what I'm assuming. It makes the most logical sense. But all in all though, you want to make sure that you get it closest to the needle so that way you can deal damage to your opponent. And then we have Crash Impact. Crash Impact is triggered when both characters use a step, X and A, at the same time. Once the Crash Impact begins, the two sides will be randomly assigned the roles of attacker and defender. The inputs shown for the attacker and the defender are different, so the players must follow the directions on screen. If the attacker wins the exchange, the defender will take damage. If the defender wins, they will protect themselves. A maximum of 3 exchanges will take place. The first player to win 2 exchanges will knock back the other player. Now, I'm pretty sure that this is that one mechanic where in the older games you would vanish and you had to press a corresponding button, and whoever pressed that button first ended up winning for that first part, right? And I think it goes up to like 5 times. So they just changed it up in this game with Crash Impact. So I'm pretty sure it's the exact same mechanic, just slightly different. But all in all though, you want to make sure that you're faster than your opponent, because whoever inputs it the fastest will be able to, I guess, claim that section, right? Because it goes up to 3 times. And you do also have the option to boost it as well. But remember that the inputs are different for the attacker and the defender. So again, let's say the button that pops up on your screen as the attacker is X, but the button that appears on the opponent's screen is circle, right? If they press circle before you press X, they're going to win that first part. So you want to make sure that you're quick with your reaction time to be able to beat the opponent in this type of impact. And then finally, we have Blast Impact. Blast Impact is an impact action that occurs upon the collision of two ranged blast attacks. When a blast impact begins, a meter will be displayed on screen and a gauge on the right side will begin increasing. Pressing will convert the gauge into energy for your blast, affecting whose blast comes out on top. In addition to single button presses, you can increase your power through rapidly tapping the button as well. The winner will deal tremendous damage to his opponent. So again, it's the beam struggle. Now, I'm glad that they clarified this because I've seen a lot of different approaches to this. I've seen people mash, and I've seen people wait for the gauge to get all the way filled before they input. So it gives you options on how you go about it, right? If button mashing is your thing, then you can just rapidly mash the button and be able to get, power up or built up to the point where you can potentially beat your opponent. Or if timed presses is your thing, then you can end up letting the gauge fill up as much as possible, and then from there you can time it right before the gauge drops all the way down to be able to maximize your damage and hopefully be able to beat your opponent. I'm pretty sure that once we get our hands on the game, we'll find out which method is probably better, right? But all in all though, you can either mash or time your inputs, and both options work effectively well. Personally speaking, I'm going to try to aim for the timed inputs because one, I've played Dragon Ball Legends too much, so I'm kind of used to it. And two, with timed inputs, you could boost it and try to get more of that gauge filled up as possible, which I would assume would help you out in the long run. Because if you boost it, but you're button mashing, that doesn't really make sense because when you boost, those bars, like those 3 bars near the end of the gauge, disappear, which allows you to be able to fill up the gauge more. So again, I don't know if you really need a boost if you're button mashing. We'll have to wait and see, but it still is an option. So button mashing or timed inputs both work perfectly fine. But that's about it. Again, I'm glad that we finally got details on this. We have seen all of these already, so it's no surprise as to what they are, but they were never broken down. And I've seen a lot of people confused about these, but now that we finally have details, we can go into the game ready and prepared on what we can do whenever we have to experience these impact actions. And also, again, it's really cool that we did get to see all of this updated on the Dragon Ball Sparking Zero section of the Bandai Namco Entertainment European website. Like, this is really cool, man. Just seeing all these renders for these characters are cool. Again, granted, I wish that the renders were high quality, and I wish the renders were individual assets, but still, we get to see them, and that's cool nonetheless. But I do want to know what you guys think about all of this in the comment section below. Well, with that being said, I'm Ndukauba, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.